Hello class, welcome to another lesson with Professor Choi. Hey, where's my marker? Aha, what's the probability of that? Alright, anyway, today we're going to be talking about another video talking about probabilities. So, I'm titling Introduction to Probabilities 2. Now, one of the reasons why I'm titling this 1, 2, 3 is because if you're watching me, you really should be watching them in order, and if you're missing one, you should kind of like go back and watch the other one, because I'm trying to keep the videos nice and short, so you don't have to be there sitting down for an hour, to learn something. So you watch it, like in shorter intervals. In any case, today I'm going to teach you how to calculate basic probabilities, and we're going to work on this example that we have here. So, imagine that I did an exam in a class with 70 students, and the following is the breakdown of those grades. So 15 students got an A, 20 students got a B, 30 students got a D, and 30 students got a C, and 5 students got a D. Okay? And then imagine that somebody's asking me, okay, so what is the probability that a student got an A? Alright? Now this is a similar question to somebody saying, imagine that I'm blind and I'm going to go randomly pick a student in the class. What is the probability that a student got an A? Alright? It's a very similar question. So, the probability of an A in this particular case is 15 out of 70. Because there are 15 students who got an A and 70 students in the class. Therefore, the probability that a student got an A is 15 divided by 70, or 0.2143. Okay? Alright, now, what is the probability that a student got a B? Or, again, a very similar question will be, imagine that I'm randomly walking through the class and I am going to bump into a student. What is the probability that that student is a B student? Okay? Now, the probability of that is 20 over 70. Because there are 70 students in the class, 20 of which got a B. And that probability is 0.2857. Okay? Alright, now, what is the probability that a student got a C? Again, very similar question too. Imagine that I have all the students in the class, I kind of like randomly grab one. What is the probability that that student that I just grabbed is somebody with a C? Well, the probability is 30 out of 70. And that is 0.4286. And then finally, what is the probability that a student got a D? That is 5 out of 70, or 0.071. Alright, now if we did this right, when you add up all of these, it should be 1 or very close to 1. Alright, now notice again, because we have all these decimal spots, it may not be exactly 1. Here we go. So if you add up all the probabilities, I have 0.9996, which is the same thing as 1. Okay? So if we did this right, then my probability of any event, if you add them all together, is 1. Because remember, probabilities have to go from 0 to 1 inclusive. Alright? So any of the things that I pick in here, I could basically calculate the probability for. Now, let's try to calculate probabilities that are more than just one thing. Alright, so now we're gonna add events or do something sequential instead. Okay, so imagine that somebody says, what is the probability of selecting an A student or a B student? So now imagine that, again, I'm walking through the class and the question is, what is the probability that I'm going to randomly walk into an A student or a B student? It could be A or it could be B. Okay? Well, every time we use the word or in probabilities, that means add. Okay? So you gotta add, in order to solve this problem, the probability of event A plus the probability of event B. Now the probability of that a student is an A is 0.2143, and the probability that a student is a B is 0.2857. Therefore, the probability that I pick somebody who's an A or a B is the addition of those two. So 0.2143 plus 0.2857, and that gives me 0.5. Alright? And again, it gives me 0.5 because it's basically add those two, which is 35/70. Alright, now another question. What is the probability of selecting either an A student or a C student? Again, remember, every time we say or, we're basically saying add. So the probability of selecting an A student or a C student is the probability of A plus the probability of B, in this case C. So probability of A is 0.2143, probability of C is 0.4286, therefore the probability of A or C is 0.2143 plus 0.4286, and that is 0.6429. And that is the probability of selecting either an A student or a C student. Alright, now this one gets a little bit more complicated. So, what is the probability of selecting an A student, taking him outside of the class, then selecting another A student, taking that student outside of the class, and then selecting a D student? Alright? Now these are what we call conditional probabilities, and they are in a sort of a sequence. So basically, probability, the first probability, but then the second probability is under the condition that the first one already happened, and then the third probability is under the condition that the second and the first already happened. Okay? So, now notice though that these are events that need to happen subsequently. In other words, you're doing this and that together, and every time we're doing and in statistics, we're basically telling you to multiply. So every time you do and, or this has to happen, and that has to happen, and that has to happen, then the answer is we need to multiply. Good so far? Alright, so let's work on this one. The probability of selecting an A student, that's the first thing that's going to happen. Alright, well, the probability of selecting an A student is 15/70. So we're good. That's the first thing we got to do. All right, now it's telling you that we're going to take that student outside of the class. Now, because we're taking that student outside of the class, we're going to be losing a student from the total number. So on the next sequence, we're no longer going to have a total of 70 students. We're going to have a total of 69 students because we took one out of the class. Now, which student did we take out of the class? Was it a D student, a C student, a B student, or an A student? Well, it was this A student that we took out of the class. Therefore, the A student is gone. Now, they're asking you, then what is the probability of selecting another A student? But one A student is gone, so the probability of selecting an A student now is 14 over 69 because we took that guy out of the class. Okay, now, the third event that needs to happen subsequently at the same, not at the same time, but in a sequence, is selecting now a D student. Now, what's the probability that we're going to be selecting that D student? Okay, well, the probability of selecting a D student once we took these out of the class again is now 68 because we took out another student, but all the students that got a D are still inside the class, so we put the 5 there. Okay? So this is the answer to this question. What's the probability of selecting an A student, taking them out of the class, then selecting another A student? That's the probability of the second event. And then take him out of the class, and then selecting a D student. There. The probability of all of that put together is what you see there. You got to solve it. Okay? So, let's solve that one. Let me work with my trusty calculator here. Remember, when you're doing this stuff, by the way, make sure you put brackets. Alright, so probability of this event is 0.0032. There you go. That's how you solve that. Alright, I hope you like my basic probabilities example, and look forward to a few more. Thank you for tuning in to Professor Choi. Have a good one.